Yes.
All right.
Oh, wait, no, we don't.
Quadratic.
Like that, Mr. Fritz?
Yep. Quadratic equation and the quadratic formula. Quadratic equation and the quadratic formula. All right. We use the quadratic formula to help us solve a quadratic equation. Got it? The reason I'm showing you the two is because anytime kids hear quadratic, they automatically think it's a quadratic formula. Quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That's the quadratic equation. What makes it a quadratic? That it has a degree of what? 2. Degree being the highest exponent. Do you guys remember that? All right. Quadratic formula is a formula we use to solve these type of problems. What have we used in the past to solve these type of problems? Yes? No. Okay, hold on. Before listening, in the past, one method that we used to solve was factoring. That was the first thing we did. We factored to solve. Do you guys remember that? We did double bubbles and equal to 0 and solved. Yes? Other methods that we used were these here. It was already factored for us and we just moved things over and solved. Do you guys remember that? The most recent method we did was on Tuesday. We solved by completing the square. Moved things over, we did all this, and we found our answers. Now, this is another method we're going to use. The last method we're going to learn, put that away right now, and that is the quadratic formula. Now, this is a formula you will need to have memorized. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, again, you will need to have this memorized. You can look it up online and find people singing it to different tunes.
No.
And it helps you memorize it. It really does. I'm not lying.
What would we have to search up?
Quadratic formula.
Quadratic formula.
Song.
Or
Mm-hmm. All right. Are we ready?
Can you show us one?
Not right now. Only because we're short on time.
Yeah.
All right.
Why are we short on time?
Guys, please have a seat. Let's hurry. All right. Now,
Do we like start leaving?
why do we have another method? Because not all problems are factorable, and complete the square doesn't always work out nicely on every single problem. This one works on any of them, even ones that we were able to factor. This works every single time. Yes?
So basically, the quadratic equation is how the quadratic, how that's how they're set up, and we plug in those numbers into the quadratic formula, and then we solve. That's how we solve it.
Exactly.
Would to the power 2 inside the would that cancel out?
No.
Why not?
Because it has more to it. If it was just square root of b squared, yes, and I'm glad you observed that. He asked what the square root and the squared cross out because we talked about that before. If I'm covering all of this and it was just right there that, yes, the square root and the square would cancel out. But once you throw more stuff in there, it no longer crosses out. But very good question. Solve using the quadratic formula. That's what you're asked to use tonight on tonight's worksheet. You will have test questions that ask you to use it, so yes, you need to know it. Are we ready?
Yes.
Number 1. On number 1, I'm going to redo one that we did in notes on Tuesday. So let's write it down. X squared plus 8x minus 5 equals 0. This is redoing, I'm going to show you really quick. We did it right here. But what method did we use on Tuesday? We completed the square on Tuesday. And we got negative 4 plus or minus root 21, and here are our steps. Do you guys remember it? Moved, blanks, cut in half and squared, factored, square rooted, moved over with our plus and minus. Yes? All right, so we're going to see if we end up with the negative 4 plus or minus root 21, again with this one here using a different form. And you may ask, again, why do we need a different form? Because the method we did on Tuesday doesn't always work out very nice. And sometimes the quadratic is a little easier to use. All right, phones put away, A, B, and C. A, B, C. What is A in this case, even though we can't see it? 1. What is B in this case?
8.
And what is C?
5.
Be careful. What is C?
Negative 5.
-5. All right, I want you to write that down in every single problem. Another thing that I recommend you do is write the formula out over and over on every single problem until you have it memorized. Don't just like write it down in one place and keep looking back to it because you're not going to memorize it. I would suggest you write it on every single one, or keep writing it over and over until you have it memorized. All right, x equals, I'm going to make my fraction. This is opposite of b. What's the opposite of positive 8?
-8.
-8 is correct. Plus or minus square root. I'm going to put a lot of blanks in here. Blank squared minus 4 blank blank over 2 blank. And I'm going to fill the blanks in. All right. -8 because the opposite of 8 is negative. Plus or minus because that's part of the formula.
Does the last one have 2 blanks or just 1?
It's 2 blanks for the AC. Do you see that?
Oh, Lord.
For AC. 2A at the bottom. All right, first blank. This is b squared. So what do I plug in here for the blank? What is the b?
8.
8. Minus 4a. What do I plug in here for the a? 1. C. What do I plug in here for the c?
-5.
And then over 2a would be 2 times
1 or just
2 times 1. All right, -8 plus or minus the square root of, what is 8 times 8?
64.
64. Put that away, please. All right, minus, actually, I'm not going to put my sign in there yet. Can you first tell me what 4 times 1 times 5 is?
-5.
Ignore the negatives. What's 4 times 1 times 5? 20. Is it going to be plus or minus if I have a -4, a +1, and a -5?
Where do you get 64 from? Is that 8 times?
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you guys see why it's plus?
Oh yeah, it'd be positive.
Okay, 64 is coming from the 8 times 8, and -4 times 1 is -4, times -5 is plus 20. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
All over 2. As tempting as it is to reduce, is anybody tempted to reduce? It's tempting. Do not. Here's why. What's here that I don't see? I want, do you guys remember when I told you about reducing? It has to reduce to all 3.
Isn't there a 1 next to the 8?
No. It is 8 times 1, but you don't have to write it. All right. So does 2 go into -8, 1, and 2? No. So do not reduce. All right. -8 plus or minus the square root of, what's 64 plus 20?
84.
What is it?
84.
84 all over 2. As tempting as it is, should we reduce?
No.
No. Now, if I stopped here, does this look anything like the answer we said we should come up with?
No.
No. But where am I messing up if I stop here?
Not by 2.
I can't divide by 2 because I have to do all 3, and this I cannot divide by 2. Yes, hurry up, please. What do I have to do with the 84?
Oh, square root.
Break it down, prime factors. Do you guys agree? I'm going to help you with it. 2 times what is 84? Can you guys do that in your head?
22.
40.
Or, 42.
2.
Yeah.
42 divided by 2 is 21. 21 is,
7 and 3.
all right, so I have 2, 2, 7, and 3. -8 plus or minus, what's coming out?
2 and it'd be 21.
2 root 21 over 2. Now my coefficient of 1 has changed to 2. Is there a number that goes into 2, 2, and -8? So now can I reduce?
Yeah.
All right, so do you guys understand when you can reduce and when you cannot?
Yes.
So if, say, this number outside was not a 2, say it was a 3, could I still reduce? No. What if it was a 4?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so what am I going to divide everything by? 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. What's -8 divided by 2? Plus or minus, what's 2 divided by 2? Root 21 stays. And then bottom, what's 2 divided by 2? Do I need to show the 1 coefficient or the 1 divide? -4 plus or minus what?
21.
Root 21, and that's it. Can you guys flip back to your Tuesday's lesson? It was number 1 on the back side. Is it the same answer? I'm going to show you really quick. Is it the same answer? Yes. So it was the same exact equation. This one I solved by what? And this one I solved by using which formula?
Quadratic.
do we end up with the exact same answer? All right, yes.
So can we use, do we have to use quadratic?
Great question. Hurry. If on the test, when it comes to the one that says solve using any method, it's your choice. But there will be some that say solve by completing the square, so you do have to know it. Do you like the other method better?
I don't like
Or you don't like this one? Yes. Yes. All right. We have another one. I am doing number 2. Yeah, too many steps. Some kids don't like it because it's so many steps. Some kids like it because it works every time. All right. We're listening. 2x squared equals 7x plus 1. Stop the talking. 2x squared equals 7x plus 1. We are listening. I didn't say it earlier, and I should have. We only use quadratic formula when there is a degree of 2. Is there a degree of 2? And it has to equal 0. Does it equal 0? Okay. So, again, it has to be a quadratic, which it is. There's a degree of 2. And it has to equal 0. Does it equal 0? No. Can we force it to equal 0?
One of those, or just has to be both?
Both of them. Can we force it to equal 0?
I don't.
We're going to, okay. Now, you can minus the 2x squared in this and be perfectly fine. I typically leave my leading coefficient to be positive. I like it to be positive. It's not necessary for quadratic. It is for factoring. And so, out of habit, just to keep it the same all the time, I move it in the direction to get a positive leading coefficient. Again, not necessary, but I suggest you do it because we do that when we come to factoring. All right, do you guys see how it's 2x squared minus 7x minus 1? Yes? Hurry. All right, do you guys see that? Yes or no? All right, so I didn't even ask, but do you guys agree this is the proper order? X squared, x, and the constant. All right, we're not going to factor. We're using quadratic. So on your side, I'm going to have you quickly label A, B, and C. Hurry. A, B, and C. What is A?
2.
What is B?
Negative 7.
-7. What is C? All right. And then we plug it in. I'm going to write the formula down. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. All right. Now, I do have kids fumble this first part up. It's opposite B, but B's already negative. Mendoza, what's going on? Have a seat. All right. It's the opposite of B, and B's already negative. So what's the opposite of negative 7? So positive 7. Plus or minus the square root of
Negative 7 squared.
blank squared, you can plug it in now, minus 4 blank blank all over 2 blank. All right. First blank goes the B squared. What do I plug in? So it stays negative 7 in this case, minus 4A. What is A? C, what is C? All over 2 times A, which is 2. All right. X equals 7 plus or minus the square root of over, what's 2 times 2? 4. Even if this was an 8, as tempting as it is, would I be able to reduce these two? I can't right now anyway, but even if this, I'm going to change it really quick. If that was an 8, as tempting as it is, should I reduce?
No.
No, thank you. All right, so let's figure out what this number is. What's negative 7 times negative 7?
Alright, 49.
I'm going to ignore the negatives for now. What's 4 times 2 times 1? 8? Yes? Plus or minus? If it's negative 4, positive 2, and negative 1. Plus or minus? Plus 7 plus or minus the square root of blank over 4. What's 49 plus 8? 57. And what should I try to do with 57 before boxing it in? Don't forget, we have to try to do what? Factor tree.
Yeah.
57 is 3, does anybody know it? 3 and 19?
Yeah.
Because they're both prime, do any pairs come out? Then what does that mean about this? This is the final answer. And there is nothing I can reduce by. Nothing goes into 7, 1, and 4. Do you see that? All right, before you pack up, you guys should not be packing up. I want to show you 2 what-ifs really quick. So because I don't have time to do a bunch of different types, you have the idea of what you're doing. But what if you come up with something like this? 6 plus or minus 5 root 2 over 6. Gentlemen, have a seat. If you do this, 6 plus or minus 5 root 2 over 6, it's, Emily, put that away. As tempting as it is to reduce this, should I reduce?
No.
No. Why? Because 5 does not divide by 2 or 6. Do you see that? So no reducing. Can anybody give me an example of a number that would be here that would allow me to reduce? What? A 12? A 6? A 2? A 4? Yes, would 4 work? Yeah. What about that? If it's just blank and it's a 1, can I reduce? Can I? What's here if there's nothing there? And does 6 go into 6, 1, and 6? No. So even if it's blank, especially if it's blank, you're not allowed to reduce. Got it? All right. What if you get all the way down and you end up with something like this? And it does happen. It's not common. It doesn't happen very often, but it is possible. That just means that this number right here would be a perfect squared. Let's say this was 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. Then you'd have something like this. What do you do in this case? Anybody know? You break them up. You're right. You add it. 6 plus 4 divide by what?
2.
And then what's the second one? 6 minus 4 divide by... What's 6 plus 4? 10 over 2? And what's 6 minus 4? And 2 over 2? 1. So if in the rare case you end up with no radical, you work it all the way through. Even if you got 6 plus or minus 0 over 2. 6 plus 0 over 2, 6 minus 0 over 2. Any questions? None?